Food manufacturing is a fun place to live. It really is. Like here, we run sort of a Lean Sigma program. I'm a big culture guy, so I like the culture of Lean. I like the simplicity of it. But then we also make decisions using a lot of data. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm providing them the resources, and I'm providing them the culture, and I'm providing them the environment to succeed in their jobs. We had an issue with this. Okay, well, we're going to add another line to the form, but that's not fixing the root cause. Taking away is more important than adding.
Thank you so much, Brian, for sitting down with me. And I'm really excited to learn more about your role, learn more about Made with Local. Your company is doing some really amazing things, and your founder is just so passionate about the products that you have and just building the company. So thanks for sitting down with me.
You bet.
Well, why don't we get started by talking about Made with Local and what it is? So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that and the products that you carry?
Yeah, sure. So Made with Local is a company we were founded, I think, in around 2012. So we're a relatively young company. It was founded by a woman named Sheena Russell, who started making granola bars essentially and selling them at the farmers market locally here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And she just grew it and grew it and grew it, and she got to the point where she couldn't package them all anymore. So at that time, I owned another company. We were in the maple syrup business, and we did a lot of co-packing. So she came to me and was wondering if I could help her. So early days, I kind of helped her out with a few things, and then we sort of stayed in touch. And then after a while, the company just grew and grew and grew. And whenever she'd have a big decision to make, she'd contact me, and I would help her, at least give her my advice, what I thought would be best. And then eventually, the company grew into we have about 6 core SKUs, and we've just added 2 protein cookies. So the core products are granola bars. So it's a soft baked granola bar. So it's we're healthy. We try to be healthy forward. So we're only using real ingredients. We're using oats and honey and chocolate, and there's no chemicals. There's nothing in the products that you can't pronounce. So as a result of that, the product just grew. The product lines grew quickly, and the sales grew quickly. And now we're right across the country in all the major retailers in Canada. And again, we just launched a protein cookie, so we're foraying into more of the functional side of the business. So we're getting into that now.
Seen the products, they look great with the new with the new protein cookie, I should say, just recently, kind of new. So it does it's a great expansion onto the brand and such. So tell me about your food job. Where do you fit in with Made with Local?
I'm officially the chief operating officer. So I don't know really what that means, but it's some letters behind my name. But no, I essentially just run all the operations, everything from I manage all of our IT infrastructure. I manage all of our technology in the plant. I do all of our demand forecasting. I manage supply chain. I have some teams underneath me that does a lot of this quality. And I'm the oldest person on the staff. I'm a bit of a geriatric, so I just keep everyone on the straight and narrow as much as possible. So yeah, just kind of the whole umbrella of operations kind of falls under my purview.
Wow, that is a lot, because we know as companies get larger and larger, the roles become more defined and more defined. But it seems with your Made with Local is one of a relatively smaller brand, so it really gets you the chance to touch all these different aspects, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the operations. So we talked about it being like a small company. I think when people think of operations, like they think of like this very large company where it's like 50 manufacturing lines and all that. So maybe just paint us a little bit of picture about what it looks like for Made with Local.
Yeah, sure. So our head office is in downtown Dartmouth, which is about on the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia, and then the plant, our factory where we're actually producing the product, is about 45 minutes south of that, in what's a little town called Windsor, Nova Scotia. So we're a fairly small facility. We're about maybe 10,000 square feet. We've got 2 production lines, one that runs the bars and one that runs the cookies. And then warehousing, dry storage. So essentially, raw materials come in, we transform those raw materials into the finished goods. They get packaged and then they get shipped out. We run the lines as efficiently as possible. And I'm a big Lean Six Sigma guy, so we like to reduce our inventories and we like to reduce waste. So we run just in time as much as possible to keep our inventories low, to keep our cash preserved, and to keep the best before dates as long as possible.
And when you mention Lean Six Sigma, a lot of people might not be familiar with that term unless they're like really deep into operations. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So kind of the lean movement came out of the Toyota, what's called the Toyota production system. So back in post-war Japan, Toyota had to make several different kinds of cars on one manufacturing line. So there was a guy named one of the engineers called Tiichi Ono, and he was kind of the father of lean, what's become known as lean. And basically, what they did is they created a system to drive waste out of all operations. So defective products, overproduction, waiting, non-use employee talent, transportation, inventory, motion, and excessive processing are kind of the 8 wastes of manufacturing. And what you do is you just on a daily basis, just drive those things out of your processes. And by making those small incremental improvements every day, by cutting out those wastes, you can save yourself thousands of hours a year and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that sort of turned in the North American companies sort of have taken that and turned it into what we call lean manufacturing over the 80s and 90s. And then at the same time, Motorola started their own kind of, so the whole umbrella is called continuous improvement, to continuously improve your operations. Motorola sort of in the 80s and 90s created what's called Six Sigma, and it's more of a data-driven, more scientific approach to driving waste and getting defects out of your system. So they're both kind of approaching the same problem, but they're approaching it in a different way. Six Sigma is very data-driven, and Lean is more like culturally driven. Yeah.
And is there any certifications? Because I think I've like heard about Sigma belts and
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a thing?
Yeah. So you can take courses and you can become like yellow belt, green belt, and black belt certified in both Lean and Six Sigma. And then most companies now are running what are called like Lean Sigma programs. So we're kind of taking a bit of both. So we do like here we run sort of a Lean Sigma program. So I'm a big culture guy, so I like the culture of Lean. I like the simplicity of it. I like building the teams and teaching the people, the team how to do things. But then we also make decisions using a lot of data. So like what's called statistical process control is what we're using. So it's a bit of both. Yeah.
Okay. Would you just be able to provide like an example of maybe just, I know we say lean, and I think we can think about like basics in terms of, reduce less, but like maybe just like drive it home, like an example if you.
Yeah. So there's Lean is a whole bunch of different tools. And then what you do is you have to like identify a problem, then decide which tool you use. Every tool doesn't work for everybody, and every tool doesn't work for every situation. One of the big tools in Lean is called Kanban. In North America, most people call it Kanban. But my old job at Acadia Maple, I had a Japanese manager on staff, and she's like, "It's not Kanban, Brian. It's Kanban." So anyway, most people refer to it as Kanban. It was actually, according to Yuka, it's Kanban. Anyway, but what it is, it's like a Kanban is rough, like loosely translated, is like a sign or signal. So, for example, our consumables, like so our gloves, our hairnets, band-aids, cleaning chemicals, all these things are very mundane and very boring. But like if we run out of hairnets, our plant shut down. A bag of hairnets costs $8, but that $8 can shut the plant down. So what we do is we have just paper cards in a stack of hairnets to say, when you get to this point, you take this card out and you put it into this box, and then Brian's going to order more hairnets, and that way we never run out of hairnets, and it also makes sure that we don't order too many hairnets. So it's kind of like a min and max system, but it's very visual, it's very tactile. Anyone can do it. You don't have to pay software licensing fees, and it works when the power's out. So it's like, it works great. And once people learn it, they really start to rely on it. And like, we wouldn't be able to run our plant without it now. And we also use it for like some raw materials. So like some of our oil, like oils that we put into our products and flavorings and stuff, like the more higher value things, we want to make sure we don't have too much of them, but we don't want to run out. So we'll have Kanban points set on those. So, we don't spend tens of thousands of dollars buying something that we might use in 6 months. We spend the appropriate amount of money buying the appropriate amount of materials that we're going to use right now.
I'm going to have to steal that idea for my own lab with our gloves and that, because it's always this constant thing where, we're getting close to being low, but then one person doesn't order it. And then it's just, you say you're going to do it later, but I like that physical system. Yeah. Like it's simple, but it makes sense, and simplicity is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's very elegant because it also empowers people that they feel like they're part of the process.
And I mean, I say simple, but yet I've never thought about it. Was this something that you went into like a textbook and you were like, oh, this is some suggestions? Was this picked up from like another place? Like, how did you learn about that?
I thought I invented it.
Oh, okay.
We
That's
used
even
to,
better.
yeah. So at my old company, Katie Maple, we used to have we used to sell jams, blueberry jams and raspberry jams, and the jam would come in from the manufacturer unlabeled, and we were labeling it. So we were a really small operation. We had a little like 40-foot sea container out back that we were storing all of our inventory in at the time. This is really early days. And we had a high school student that would come off the bus after school, and she'd come in and just the unlabeled jam would be sitting there. She'd label it all, and then like the next day I'd be picking orders and I realized that she'd labeled all the rhubarb jam, but I actually needed blueberry jam and there was no blueberry jam labeled. So I'd have to go in and label it. So what I did is I started drawing lines on the shelf and say, and I put a little cardboard card. I just like when the jam goes past this line, when I'm picking orders, I take the card, I brought it in and I put it in this little envelope. So I told the student that was coming in working with, I was like, work on these cards. So when you come in, don't just pick stuff up and start randomly labeling it. Use these cards and let that decide. Like, use this one first, then do this one, and it worked great. And I was brilliant. I invented Kanban. But later, it was like 10 years after that where we were our plant. We built a great big new plant and we completely ran out of room, and we were looking at putting a huge expansion on millions of dollars. And before we bet the farm again, I thought, let's just see what else we could do. And I was able to get a grant from the province, and I brought in a lean consultant, and we learned that there's this thing called Kanban. And within about 6 months, we cut like 80% of our inventory out. We like reduced our lead times. Like it was completely transformative, and like I saw it in like a real world way. So I very quickly started adopting it in all aspects of the business.
Props to you for I know you say inventive, but still no, that's
Yeah.
it's again simplicity. And it's always that when I worked in food manufacturing and such, when I did quality control, there's always this communication isn't as good sometimes as you think it might be. So you think logically, oh, the person's going to do this, or if we run out of this, or it'll get translated to the next person. But people think differently, people get busy, people forget, and you have to have these systems that can work even when, like, how do I want to say this? You want to have these systems that are in place that still work continuously, even if the communication might not be the best. I guess that's how I'm trying to say it.
Totally, yeah. If everyone's in charge, no one's in charge, right?
That's a good
Yeah.
way.
And the other thing too is like you can't improve any system, you can't improve any process unless you first standardized it, right? So, we've standardized it with the Kanban cards are a certain color and this is where they go. And like, everyone knows exactly what to do now, whether they like it or not. This isn't a democracy; they have to do it. So, but now that we've standardized it, a standard doesn't necessarily mean that this is the best way to do it. It just means this is the best way to do it given what we know right now. It doesn't mean it's not going to get better or change. It's just the best way that we've all agreed on it right now. So yeah, the systematic approach to these sorts of things is very important.
And I guess it comes back to what you were saying earlier with that incremental changes every day, because it might have been best today, but tomorrow, now you have a new SKU of products,
Yeah.
let's just say, and then it's like improving that system.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you also can't set it and forget it. So just because 3 bags of hairnets is appropriate for today, that doesn't mean 3 bags of hairnets is going to be appropriate for tomorrow. We might need 6 bags because we've got a double shift coming on. So we're constantly looking at these numbers and reevaluating them. Yeah. But with quality assurance, I don't know how much history you have with it, but like if you're running GFSI based programs like an SQF or BRC program, those are all, and like even ISO, those are all based on the Toyota production system. So like those all go back to the very roots of lean in Toyota. Like if you read through those codes, and they've just been skinned with the food, and they've added on these special food things, but it's all just lean manufacturing. Like we were doing color coding for allergen cross contamination. Been doing it for years. Like everything was color coded and everything had a place and had to go. The drain brush had to go here and the sink brush had to go there. And because you don't want to clean your equipment with the wrong brush. But in lean, that's called 5S. So when we started doing the lean thing, I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're already doing a lot of this stuff. So it was for food companies, it was super easy for us to transition our brains into this lean thinking because we're already like 3/4 of the way there.
I never knew that. That's an interesting fact. I didn't know that it was based off of the
Well,
Toyota model.
that's just my take on it.
Oh, okay.
I also invented Kanban, right? So
That's true. That's true. So tell me though, it does seem like you've had this mind for like operations and building systems. Tell me about the path. How did you end up getting into the food industry? Because it seems like you fit naturally into it from the way that you're talking.
yeah, I don't know, it's just a bit of a mistake. I did a degree in international relations and strategic studies, so I basically learned how to fight nuclear war. If I'm ever on Jeopardy and there's any questions about the Vietnam War, I'm your guy. I know a lot of
Okay.
useless facts, but they're not very commercializable. Um, so yeah, no. After university, I took a pause. I'm an avid skier and mountain biker, so I worked at a ski hill for a number of years, and realized I couldn't do that for the rest of my life. But while I was there, I sort of got a taste of the operations because like I was in ski, I was on mountain safety. I was on the safety team, but we worked very closely with the ops team, like preventative maintenance on the chairlifts and stuff like that. So that sort of got me into the mindset of operations. And then our family hobby, my father started making maple syrup, like when my sister and I were like 9 or 10 years old. Both my parents were teachers. My mother was a home ec teacher, and she went back. She did a sabbatical and went back to school to re-up her education. So I think she could teach social studies. But anyway, she would be studying or doing exams and stuff on the weekends. So my father, of course, had no idea what to do with us. So he took us out one day and we took these old like apple juice cans, and we cut the top off and we bent them into a V and hammered them into a tree in the spring. And the sap came out and we boiled it down on the stove and ruined the kitchen ceiling with all the steam and made maple syrup. And then my dad fell in love with it and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. So by the time I was sort of done with the ski hill, he had been running this sort of like hobby company, but he was still a school principal. And we were primarily in giftware at the time. So like May, June, July were very busy, but that was also when he was very busy in school. So I'd come home from university, kind of take the company over and ran it. And then eventually I just kind of rolled into it and I took the company over and turned it into with my parents, and we kind of turned it into a real business. And we started exporting into Europe because we're on the East Coast of Canada. And I don't know how much you know about maple syrup, but in the maple syrup world, every drop of maple syrup in the U.S. comes from the state of Vermont. So how we couldn't sell any maple syrup to the U.S., so we couldn't go south. And Quebec, the province of Quebec in Canada, is sort of the Saudi Arabia of maple syrup. So we couldn't go east, or so we couldn't go west. And then there's nobody that lives in the prairies, and then there's the West Coast. So it's like it was cheaper and easier for us to put stuff on a ship and send it to Europe than it was to go west. So because we kind of cut our teeth in Europe, their food safety standards and quality systems were just like light years ahead of us. So I learned HACCP and GFSI and like all those things like way before any of our competitors were, just because we were operating in Europe. So that's where my quality side came in, and then eventually we did the lean thing. So yeah, I don't know. In a roundabout way, that's how I got into the food business.
Hey, I love that. I know that a lot of people's food businesses start off in their kitchen, then they go to a farmer's market, and then after it just like builds up and builds up until they love it. But it's really cool that you were able to, maybe you loved it or maybe you hated it. I don't know, work with family. That's a really interesting aspect as well. So
yeah, it was great. I have really fond memories of working with my parents. A lot of people don't get to do that, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed it. And then we got to the point where we just decided to sell the business because it just got too big for us. So, and then I just went off and did some other things. Now I'm making granola bars.
Well, it's cool that you're really involved as well with like very Canadian companies, companies that are like on the roots, growing from just locally around you.
Yeah, totally.
One other aspect that I wanted to talk about that stood out to me a little bit earlier was you talked about this culture, and culture was very important for you in terms of the lean manufacturing, but also building out teams. So I wanted to talk about, as a leader, you're hiring individuals, you're looking who might best suit it. That's maybe a skill that a lot of people who are younger don't really have the opportunity. It's like you have a school project, your teacher puts you with someone, or you just look around the room and you pick your best friends. But once you start to move up in the world, it's a totally new skill, and being able to judge others might be a little difficult. So maybe could you talk about like how you approach building a team and what you look for?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, as you get older, you realize, and you get into business, you realize that, you get to pick your friends, but the flip side of that is that it's contractual. So, it can go either way. But
True.
I don't know. Culture is what happens when nobody's looking, right? So I'm always looking for people that are going to buy in. You know, I'm a firm believer in work-life balance, and I'm not looking for someone that's going to come in and kill themselves just to impress me. But I'm looking for people that can see the vision, are going to come in and they're going to work hard, and they're going to stay when they need to stay, but not be here when they don't need to be here, and just really respect what we're doing, respect the rules, especially around quality and food safety, and follow the systems in the plans. That's really what I'm looking for. It's not rocket science, but you can very quickly, within a week of having someone in the plant, you can tell whether they're going to be a good fit or not. So, but the other piece is like once you've built that team, I was really lucky here at Made with Local. We have an absolutely incredible team, just an amazing team. Can't say enough good things about them. But once you've built that team, the most important thing is that you got to make sure anyone that you're bringing in is going to gel with that team, right? Because if the current team isn't going to get along, if the other person doesn't fit into your company culture with that team, then it's not going to work. So yeah.
Let's hear a word from our sponsor and partner of the podcast, Careers Now. Just like Brian has been leading teams and driving transformation in food manufacturing, Careers Now is transforming Ontario's food and beverage sector by connecting job seekers with Ontario's leading food and beverage processing employers. By signing up for a free Careers Now account, you'll gain access to incredible opportunities with top employers, along with valuable career tools like job fairs, mentorship sessions, and skills training. I highly recommend that you explore their free Job Ready Skills Training, which is a fantastic way to enhance your understanding of the industry and showcase your skills to potential employers. With 15 online self-paced courses available in multiple different languages, it is a convenient, accessible resource to gain an edge in this competitive field. Whether you're starting out or looking to grow your career, Careers Now is the perfect platform to take the next step in the food and beverage industry. All right, let's get back to the show. Do you just I'm thinking about like an interview process because, I mean, it's easier to tell, I would imagine, when someone's one weekend to tell if they mesh, but people can act very different like in their interviews just because, they're shy, they're nervous, or just other factors. Do you just you can tell, or is it just like how someone answers the question? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, once you've done it long enough, you can just sort of tell, you can tell. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You got to be careful in interviews because people can be completely different people, and people can be. I've read resumes and I'm like, oh wow, and then I get them in, I'm like, oh no. So it's and the other thing too is like you don't have to answer all the questions correctly. You don't have to know everything. In fact, we don't want you to know everything. We want to teach you the way we're going to do it. Um, and the most important thing to me, the hallmark of professionalism is someone that's willing to stand up and say, I made a mistake, I screwed up, you know, and because if you do that right now when you screwed up, it's a lot easier to fix than 6 months from now once the product's on the shelf. So I'm looking for the people that have that, I don't know, there's no real word for it, but just after a while you can just sort of know. And then once they work for a while, you can just tell. I ask my more senior leadership, that are out on the floor to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, how's this person doing, or how are they making out? And that's kind of when you make the decision to keep them or let them go.
Okay, it kind of does sound like experience in a bit.
It's a
Like
lot of
it's just
it's a bit of science and art.
it sounds
That's my
like it.
experience anyway, because every company I've worked for, it's been a smaller company. So like we don't have an HR. We don't have an HR. I am the HR department. And just when I think I've seen it all, I see something else. It's like it's truly amazing. But yeah, it's really just experience. But I think in an interview, the most important thing to do is just be yourself, and don't try to say all the things that you think the employer wants you to hear. You just got to be yourself, and like that's what I'm looking for. People that are just honest and have have a good outlook on life.
I think that's I'm really happy that you shared that because I'm just like thinking about students and all that. And it feels like many that I've spoken to, when they go to the interview, it's like I have to make sure that I tell them everything that they think. Like, I think I want to impress, like, I want them to hire me. I want them to be so impressive that they're like, this person would be so good for this role. But then it's sounding like, yes, of course, be prepared, have your answers, but then as well, just like be yourself because you're going to be fitting out in the team and you just might not be a cultural fit for this company, but you might be for another one. And you're going to be working with others, and it's better to be yourself when you start out rather than you get to the first day of the job and you're like, this was not who I was when I was talking to you earlier.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally. You just be yourself. It's really the most important thing, and be honest. And, that's really it. Like, and again, like, I don't want you to know everything. I want to we want to teach you the way we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. No, again, I'm just like thinking in my head because I've spoken to a few operation leaders and they've all been saying the same thing as you because a lot of people, they're saying, be honest with me. If you don't know something, tell me. But then as well, like, be prepared, but it's not supposed to be this, like, we're here to help teach you certain aspects. We just want you to have the base and we want to like build you up with us.
Yeah, exactly. If you come in and think you know everything, like, how could you possibly know everything? You've never worked here.
That's true. That's a really good point. And then as well, like thinking about it, okay, so let's just say like someone for yourself, what leadership qualities do you think are essential for like excelling in food manufacturing?
I'm a big fan of servant leadership. Like, I don't know, I see like I'm yeah, like I want to be there for the team, I want them. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm providing them the resources, and I'm providing them the culture, and I'm providing them the environment to succeed in their jobs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there to get in their way. I'm not there necessarily to tell them what to do. I'm there to tell them like how I think maybe we could do it, and then let them run with it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really like the servant leadership model. I don't. I'm joking about it not being a democracy, but like, I'm not heavy-handed. I don't like walking around with a big stick and slapping people. Like, when on the first day of anyone's job, employment with me, I'm always upfront. I'm like, listen, like, it's okay to make mistakes. I expect you to make mistakes. Like, keep making mistakes. It's okay. Just keep making new mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice, or maybe
Okay.
don't make it more than twice.
I,
But like, it's okay to make mistakes. I've made so many mistakes, it's ridiculous. And like, the most important thing is that you learn from the mistake. And like, so yeah, I don't know, I see myself more of a coach than a leader. It's like, I'm just kind of, I've got this team, and I'm just making sure that I'm doing everything on the outside to make sure that the team can function as best as possible. Yeah.
sorry, you said servant leadership. What kind of leadership style is that?
I'm serving my team. Like, I'm working for them as much as they're working for me. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at like an organogram, or like a corporate org chart, like, I hate them, because I hate hierarchy. I I like them flat, but it's impossible to do that. And for quality programs, you have to have org charts. But um, I'm always at the top. But like, I always tell people, listen, like, I'm at every level. Like, anyone could come and talk to me. Like, there's no one person in the organization that's more important than the other. So it's like, I don't care if you're coming in at 6 o'clock at night to hose the drains out. Like, I want you to be able to come and approach me and ask me questions, and like, because I've done that job too. I know what it's like. It sucks, but I like to. I want to be there. And like, the first thing I try to do every morning is put my. I don't. I try to do this. I don't always, in full transparency, but I get in. I put my steel toe boots on. I get my smock, my hairnet, my beard net, and I go out on the floor the moment I get into work, and I try to just talk to everyone and see how they're doing. And like, and I know it does sound like a cliche, but it's totally true. Like, if you're on the floor and you're present, and like, I like to ask them questions. Like, if I had a magic wand and I could fix any problem you had right now, what would it be? And like, I don't want you to tell me you're doing good. Tell me how you're really doing. Like, I want to serve them. I want them to feed me with what they need, so then I can create an environment for them to succeed in. Because I don't want people to be defined by their work, but I want them to come in and actually enjoy being here,
Yeah.
because work kind of sucks, right? But it doesn't have to suck as much as it has to, you know?
Mm. Exactly. Wow, I really like that approach. I really do because it makes it like you said a better place to work because you just enjoy it more and you're not like it's also not building up this unnecessary stress that like you're looking over your shoulder and you're just like is someone gonna like am I doing something wrong and then I'm gonna get caught or if you did do something unintentionally wrong, which many times it is, that you're not feeling stressed to bring it up because like you would know like you could end up with recalls later on and it just ends up being worse and someone can get sick. Like that's the unfortunate part with the food industry is that like mistakes can lead to people dying later on. It's not just you messed up a stitching on a clothing and then the clothing comes loose. Like someone could actually get hurt.
Yeah, 100%. We're making, 20,000 granola bars a day. That's 20,000 opportunities to kill somebody.
Yeah, unfortunately that is, but there's also 20,000 opportunities to also like really improve someone's day because,
100%.
they love the
Yeah,
product.
yeah. But that's why we have a quality program. And that's why we empower our staff to like stand up and say, hey, I made a mistake.
Let's talk about stories as well because I just want to get again, you've been talking about how you enjoy your role in that, but do you have any stories just about that you've enjoyed working that like something that stands out that you want to share because I think it could paint a picture about why it's so great to work there.
Yeah, I don't know. We just launched protein cookies. We launched two flavors
Hmm.
of protein cookies about a month ago. It's completely blowing all of our forecasts out of the water. We're having a hard time keeping up with it, but it's going great. The very the very first day of production, we like scaled up, scaled up, scaled up, and then it was like the first big day. We're gonna run
Hmm.
this and we're gonna rock and roll. Anyway, we have this band sealer that we were running the pouches through. For this product, it's a fairly manual process. But anyway, we were also doing a massive load in with one of the national retailers here in Canada. So I was out back in the warehouse with our manufacturing leader, and I was helping her like put the pallets together and wrap them up because we had trucks coming and we were trying to load the trucks and get all the product out. Anyway, one of the staff came out and he's like, just before lunch, I had to loosen off the heater blocks on the sealer, and because the belt was slipping or something like that. I forget what it was. Anyway, he's like, I forgot to tighten them back up. So there's like a significant chance there's a bunch of pouches that aren't sealed on these pallets. We were like, this is at like 3 o'clock. All the trucks are showing up at 4. We have like an hour. We're like, oh, we we held together. We broke a bunch of pallets open. We inspected a whole bunch of stuff. Everything ended up being perfectly okay. But like a few days later, I made sure that so every morning we have a morning meeting, which has been the most transformative thing I've ever done in my career. Is to we never miss it. We have a morning meeting every morning. It's a scripted meeting with an egg timer, so 10 minutes. That's it. We don't go over. We have a different leader every morning to promote some leadership skills and some public speaking skills, which has been really really transformative for a lot of like shyer members of the team, I've noticed. Anyway, at the morning meeting, I made sure that everyone knew that you know this employee had made a mistake. Like, yeah, he screwed up. He didn't tighten up the belts. But he's like, the most important thing is that he came out to the warehouse and he told me and the other leaders that he had screwed up and that we might not want to ship the stuff out because he knew it was going to be a bigger problem if we shipped it all out opposed to keeping it in stock. So anyway, I just made sure that everyone knew that to me that's like the hallmark of professionalism. Like that's the absolute best thing you could do at that moment. Yeah, that just happened like a couple weeks ago. But I mean, I could tell you stories all day if you wanted to.
Oh, I could imagine. I could imagine. But I guess I think it's again interesting how you're equating the word professionalism with also like being standing up for your mistakes and just sharing that they happened because I don't know, like again, I think that people are scared to share their mistakes because there's just like, and maybe it comes from being in school and there's this expectation of being perfect that you have to get perfect grades, perfect performance, perfect this because you're gonna, if you don't pass this next test, you're gonna fail in life and like nothing's gonna come out good and after that. And I think that for a lot of students it's like hard to like really push out of their systems that that's not how the world always works. Like the world doesn't work that you have to be perfect all the time at all.
No, 100%. And from my experience in school anyway, I was always under the impression that everything's black and white. It's right or wrong, black and
Yeah.
white, blah, 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 blah. But it's not, man. Like the world is a gray, fuzzy place. And like the quicker you get used to being comfortable with that, the better you are off. Like even in Six Sigma, like a very data driven, statistically driven system to drive waste out of a system, there part of the equation is to factor in the grayness of the world. Just like there's
Hmm.
unknowns that's going to happen. There's variability. There's you can't control it. And the quicker you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, the better you're going to be. And there's just some things, especially in food processing, like the humidity might change slightly, so the packaging doesn't work. And the most important thing is that you know how to adjust for that, and you're like nothing is set in stone, but then sometimes things just happen, and they just happen, and there's no way to explain them, and you just have to get used to that. And I don't know, like coming out of school is kind of hard because you got to get this grade to pass the test or whatever. But I don't know, in manufacturing, especially food manufacturing, man, like there's so many variabilities with different ingredients and this and that and temperatures, and so you just got to get used to living in the gray zone.
Yeah, for sure. And it reminds me of like you said with food safety, there's risk management. Like that's food safety. Yes, you'd think it's black and white, but no, it's actually even with food safety, there is some gray in terms of how you're going to deal with risk. What's this one? Like you're never going to 100% control for risk, but you
No,
can put as much places as you can, but there's always going to be some degree that you just can't control for. I know we're talking about school and all that, and I guess it pops into my mind to talk just about like skills and certifications. Like I know you talked about six lean. Oh my gosh! Now all
lean
the
six.
manufacture. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
All the efficiency
yeah,
words are going up in my
yeah.
head. But for those that are looking to go in like a role that's similar to yours, do you have any suggestions for any specific skills, certifications, experiences? Like, what do you think would be really beneficial?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I've been in discussions with the local like community colleges here in the last like 10 years on
Mm-hmm.
a few different occasions to say we should develop some sort of like a food plant operational like skills, like because there's a lot of food manufacturing in Nova Scotia. There's a ton
Mm-hmm.
of it, and it's becoming more and more advanced. Um, I don't know. I think really having a great attitude, being able to prove yourself, um, basic math skills are really important. Like you don't have to know algebra, but just the basic math skills. I'm horrible at math. That's what AI is for, right? Let the computers do the computing. It just yeah, and then like if you want to like the way manufacturing and food manufacturing is going is like more and more the teams are going to be working on the systems. They're not going to be working in the systems. So you've got robotics is becoming super cheap now, like vision systems, like all the stuff is becoming cheaper, and so automation is becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So the more you know how to learn quickly, and the more you know how to adapt quickly to like fix systems or update systems and things like that. I think those are really the most important skills. Like there's no one skill you need to know. I think you just need to have a great attitude. You need to be able to learn quick, and you need to be able to adapt, you know, and really stand on your feet for a long time
Yeah,
and,
that would
and
make sense.
drink
The
and
last
drink a
one.
lot of coffee. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
I like the second last one, let's just say. But I like hearing that it's soft skills. You know, they're gonna be transferable anywhere. And if you have a bad attitude, then it doesn't matter if you have every certification in the world. It's you won't apply it, right?
No.
So
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, like getting like your lean, like a lean, like getting some exposure to lean or Six Sigma would be great. If you're going into quality, getting some exposure into like HACCP or GFSI programs would be great. But like those are things we're looking for on resumes. Like again, like we're looking for people that can come in, work hard, adapt, overcome, and just push through whatever is thrown at them.
is there any like skills that you're actively working on because you're constantly learning as well? Is there anything that's kind of on your radar that you're looking to improve?
I've been recently been doing a deep dive into AI. Actually, that's
Okay.
kind of where I'm going with my professional development at the moment. Um, I've recently taken some courses and stuff. I think it's going to be absolutely transformative. It already is in our business, and it's going to be even more so. And it's like when I started a project, you couldn't do something, and then like a month in, all of a sudden you could do it because the technology is changing that fast. Um, it's kind of scary, but it's also like there's so many use cases for it. So that's kind of where I'm going right now. More the computer programming AI thing is, I think, going to be more important than ever, because the new technologies that we're bringing in onto the plant floors now, they're like super, like, you can't fix them with a hammer anymore.
Yeah.
some of the gear,
Actually, that's a really good point.
some of the gear I used to have, you just get a hammer and like maybe a measuring tape, a few screwdrivers, you could fix anything, but not anymore. You need you need stuff between your ears in order to fix them or work on them, or more importantly, troubleshoot. So when your line is down at 2 o'clock in the morning and you got to get the line back up, and it's like one little bit of code or something that's screwing everything up, you need to be able to, at least, you don't necessarily have to know how to fix that, but you need to know how to recognize that that's the problem. Because everyone can't be an expert in everything, obviously.
That's true. It just reminds me of like electric cars and like and current cars, that transition. I'm
Yeah,
hearing about mechanics needing to know now how to like look at the code on the
yeah,
inside, because you can't just use a hammer and you don't use
no,
hammers on cars, but
no, you used to.
yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, no, the AI's thing is definitely transforming, and that's in part why I'm trying to have these conversations in the podcast, just to show like, AI is not taking over your job, but it is transforming it. But it's also about being able to work with it. And like, I think it comes back to those like soft skills that you're talking about earlier, that ability to learn, ability to recognize, because sometimes even half the problem is just recognizing that there is a problem and what the heck the problem even is.
Yeah. The other thing too is, like, really, unless you're like making pacemakers or running a nuclear power plant, like, you don't have to work within a box. Like, if you're working on a system and you're not continuously thinking about how to make that system better or how to improve it, then there's going to be someone that's going to come along and be able to do that cheaper than you know. So, you don't have to come in guns a blazing and change everything all at once, but you just have to constantly be actively thinking about, how can the system be better? How can we drive the wastes out of this? Like, I have, like, and it's little stupid little stuff. Like, every time I have to adjust this, I have to walk 20 feet over to the wall to get a wrench and bring it back here. Why don't I hang this wrench right here? Just stupid little stuff like that. That's all you really need to do. But the thing is that you have to be empowered and you have to constantly be thinking about those things in order to make that change. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's
And
a very
then
valuable skill.
I love that. And you know what? I'm going to leave it there, because I think that we've covered so much in this episode. We've talked about culture, what you do. We've talked about, sounds like you have a great team that you're working with at Made with Local, and, you have great products and all that. And I'm really happy that we've been able to share that here on the podcast. So before I let you go, Brian, do you have any parting words that you might want to give our listeners, or you can just give it a good old goodbye?
Yeah. Food manufacturing is a fun place to live. It really is. Quality in particular, it's really hard to find good quality people. That's the hardest job position it's the job position I have the hardest time finding good people for. And it's a really rewarding job. So, I mean, I don't know, if you're looking for a good job that's got good job security, quality is definitely up there.
I like that. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for taking the time to come on the show, sharing about how you got into it and just your love for what you're doing. So thanks for coming on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.